right, we've got the video going. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 848. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Mike Smith. Thank you very much for downloading and subscribing to the show. Please visit the main website at miketechshow.com. You can email questions and suggestions for show topics at miketechshow@gmail.com. Please don't forget to visit my YouTube page, youtube.com/MichaelSmithMTS. There you'll find the video recording of all my shows. And please don't forget to click subscribe and check like if you like it. This show is brought to you by Instant House Call. Robust remote support for IT pros and MSPs. If you fall into either of those categories, you got to check it out. Instant House Call provides unattended and on-demand remote access, and you can try it free by clicking on the link on my website on the left-hand side, or just go to instanthouseCall.com, and don't forget to use the promo code MikeTechShow for your free 15-day trial. This show is also brought to you by MagnusBox, the best online backup service that you can have for your clients. You go to magnusbox.com, sign up for a free trial, and kick the tires, test it out, and you'll see for backing up Windows Server, Windows 10, Windows 11. I think you can even run Windows 7 if you're still running it. You shouldn't be. Synology, any Linux, Mac, great software and service. You can make money by reselling that for your client, and you have the peace of mind knowing that the backups are successful, that you'll be able to restore in the case of any emergency. You can back up Office 365. You can do a full bare metal restore and a full system image backup. Check it out. Go to magnusbox.com. But don't forget to mention that you heard it here on the Mike Tech Show, because you'll get free white labeling, and your first 3 months will be half price for your platform fee. So check them out. Got great show lined up. It's strange doing it on a Wednesday night because I have a lot to do for Thursday, and I really got a lot of announcements and some things I want to do in the front end of the show here. And then I'm going to get to, I have a couple great emails. I have a voicemail. Well, a quick little story behind the voicemail. And these are follow-ups to some of the other topics. And then since I did a show on Saturday and now it's Wednesday, there hasn't been a lot of days in between for some stories from the trenches, but I have them, have some stories. So before we get into all of that, couple things. One, a huge happy birthday to my wife, Dorothy, who is in the process of driving down to join me here in Florida, where we're going to go away next week. And she's at least stopped for the night for driving, and she's driving all day on her birthday. So we're going to really celebrate that tomorrow night when she finishes her trip and gets down here. So, and in the middle of all of this, I am faced with my second hurricane. Now, Hurricane Nicole is hitting, I think late tonight. It's making land. It's hitting land. It's going to hit as a Hurricane 1, Category 1. It's going to drop down to a tropical storm before it hits where I'm at, towards the Gulf Coast and near Tampa. And I have to worry about the high winds and all the, hopefully no power outage. I'm, prepared just in case. But anyway, life in Florida, just battling another storm. I am wearing my Phillies hat, if you look at the recording, because my Philadelphia Phillies, they did not win the World Series. I'm disappointed that they didn't win, but I am so grateful for the tremendous extra 4 weeks of baseball that I got to experience. And everybody who's a Phillies fan and my family, even though I wasn't in Philly, we were literally just doing so much for our just texting back and forth with literally almost every pitch, every major hit. It was so much fun. There are some incredible memories generated from following the Phillies, and I'm grateful for that experience. And as you know, as you can see behind me, I'm a huge Phillies fan. It's one of the reasons I'm down here in this part of Florida. So even though I go back and forth as a snowbird, I'm going to be here in March, and I'm going to go to a lot of exhibition games in March. So anyway, the next live show will be Saturday, November 26th, right after Thanksgiving. Since I'm going to be away next week, and actually next Thursday is my birthday, and then the following week, Thursday, is Thanksgiving. So I'm not going to do a show on Thanksgiving. So a happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the listening audience who are, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving. I know I got a lot of listeners outside the country, but still happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and hopefully you have a nice, safe holiday, and you know, spend time with your family, and hopefully it's great. I'm going to record the show 2:00 in the afternoon on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. So little break. I don't want to. I want to get a show in because I don't want to go too many weeks without a show, and it'll be fun because we can discuss. Hey, Black Friday, is there? I haven't even mentioned that this year, so we'll check that out. So since my last show on Saturday, has not a lot happening except a great Zoom meeting with a referral that, if you remember the story of the Synology where the network cable was unplugged, that client recommended me to a small law firm looking for new IT support. And one of the nicest things at the end of the Zoom meeting, we really connected. And they gave me immediate feedback. And you normally don't get that right away from a potential client. But they said, "Oh, Mike, you are our IT support now. We're that impressed." And they told me why. I listened to what they wanted. I explained in detail how I can help them, and took them through our process of monitoring, what we do for support, what we can do where they're having trouble with Microsoft Office. That shouldn't be. They're also having a new platform, a new case management software they're going to be implementing, and I'm going to help them roll that out and work with them. As a matter of fact, my son is scheduled for the initial assessment of their systems, and then I'll put together the contract and send that out next week. But I just, that was great. That was Monday. It was a great way to start the week by knowing that I have a new client. Then something my son's been working on, we have been replacing a lot of UPS batteries because of the storms, and not in Florida. We're talking just in Pennsylvania. The batteries, they're not lasting. And now we're starting to record when we install battery for a client. And I know you can go a few years, and it's interesting. I was talking to Marvin B from my friend who I evacuated to for the hurricane, the first Hurricane Ian. He does every 2 years, no matter what, unless there's an incident, replaces the battery. Because I seen him stocking batteries. And that's what we had to do. My son literally had 7 batteries he was taking to a client, and he was able to go through them yesterday and start putting them all in. And we have another client where we got a dozen batteries that we're going to be taking out because and replacing them because they have, UPSs at every station. So just something, don't forget about those UPSs out there that you've installed for a client. The battery is going to go bad and you're going to have to replace it. Make sure, I'm going to start something new. The models are so close, and when you go to order one, I'm going to start opening up the UPS before we deploy it and take a picture of the battery. So this way I got the exact make and model of the battery that's going in, because I had trouble searching for batteries even with knowing the make and model of the APC UPS. That wasn't enough. So now I want to store that with my client's info, and I can easily add that to Synchro. So we're going to have a picture of the battery. And just another tip I think you should be doing. So here's another thing I solved, and this was pretty fast. This was yesterday. My client, it's a title insurance company, and they use Qualia, and they scan to email. Now, the scan to email for Qualia is a custom email address, and then you have to have the SMTP, the SMTP set up on the scanner copier. And this has been working with no issues for a long time, and all of a sudden stopped working. So it's a Gmail account, which is it's a Google Workplace account, because it had to be upgraded, when Google made all those changes. And now they're charging because, I knew they were going to. I remember years ago when they were doing that with Google Apps, I'm like, they're going to lower the boom on this at some point. And they did, as predicted. So the Google Apps, I logged into this email account, and I took a chance, and I noticed, I don't know why this didn't happen sooner, but I turned on allowing less secure apps. Now, it's interesting, and I think this has to do with whether you have two-factor authentication turned on or not, because a lot of clients, you have to generate a custom password, or a lot of Gmail accounts, you have to generate that custom password. Maybe it's for Outlook, or maybe it's for the iPhone, and then you use that one-time custom password for their authentication. But this one, once I turned that on, and my client, when she got back to the office, she tested, everything was good. So that was really, really nice. Here's something, and this will be the first link for tonight. How to repair or rebuild the WMI repository on Windows 11 or Windows 10. So that's going to be the first link. And what I'm going to do is copy and put that into, for everybody who's in the chat on Twitch, I'm pasting it. Oop, it didn't paste. So let me try this again. Hold on. Boo, boo, boo. There we go. And now, what you do, take a look at this. If certain things start not working, and this is a financial advisor who the Entrada app, and anybody who deals in FINRA compliance and the financial world is familiar with Entrada, but it's an app to kind of make sure you're compliant and checks a whole bunch of things happening on your computer. That stopped working and got corrupt. The tech support said, talk to your IT guy. You have to have your WMI repaired. So I'm like, okay. So I started doing my research, and there's a whole bunch of command lines. You just got to make sure you open as an administrator on the command line. And then I have here the page, and this is from the Windows Club, that details everything you had to do. I did that. She was able to reinstall Entrada, and everything's working. So I figured, okay, that's a link for the show. I will definitely have. Last week, I mentioned that, boy, I haven't gotten any voicemails. So I have a couple emails for tonight, and a voicemail that Alistair sent me an email and said, hey, Mike, you didn't get my voicemail from a couple weeks ago about PowerShell. And I'm like, no, I don't know why I didn't get this or how it slipped, but give a listen. This is from Alistair.
Hi Mike, just want to say how I learned PowerShell. First things, don't just learn PowerShell. Learn the concepts or the basic concept of programming. I'm not talking about getting into depths like if you're a .NET developer, but like learn things like if statements, loops, variables, arrays. Because once you've learned that understanding of those simple programming terms, when you look at people's scripts online, you can it makes it so much easier to learn. If you wanted to learn something like a new programming language like Python or JavaScript, you've got those basic understandings. There's a great book which is a Haynes coding manual, it was for Python, but it just it showed you examples of the programming and how that kind of worked in a really good way. But I think it might be out of print. I think you could only get it in the UK. The next thing I do is that I like to make notes when I learn a new programming language. Let's say that I had a task of that I had 100 users I need to create in AD. I've got them in a text file, so like a CSV file exported from Excel. So then creating 100 users manually, obviously, is the reason why you want to automate it. So what I do is use these files called markdown files. It's a bit like HTML. You start off with a blank text file. You put a header in it, and you put your notes in it, and then you can put your example kind of script in there. And what you can do is that once you can apply styling by putting tags on the different elements of this markdown file. And the brilliant thing is that, like, when you go into a website and you see those nice people have got example code, if you put three backs quotes before and after your example code, when you view this markdown file, it will show you nice, clear, formatted examples. So, because what the problem is that when you do programming or scripting, we're techies as us. We're not doing it every day. So when you come back to a month later, we have to create a new script. I'm always forgetting how to do stuff. But if you've got these nice examples of these markdown files, you can reference them so you can build your scripts out nice and quickly. So like say if I was doing this one for this example for the 100 users in AD, I would write my script, but I would create markdown files. Like I'd create one markdown file for like loading the CSV into PowerShell into an array, and then I'd create another one for how you would deal with that data in the arrays. So that means so obviously you load your data into PowerShell. Obviously in your CSV file you've got a list of all the users you need to create. What in an array, that's so you've got data in an array. What you can do with PowerShell or any programming language, you can then loop through that data in the array programmatically, and you can say for each line you could then pass those values as variables into the Active Directory PowerShell command. So that makes you mean you then got it. So like say in a month's time, you needed to create a AD script which updated someone's permissions or something. You've got 100 users, you need to add them all to a group. You've got the two markdown files. You've got one which is basically how you load it in a CSV, and then you've got markdown file which is how to deal with once you've got that data into PowerShell into an array, and then all you need to do is go and find the command which adds permissions to users or add users into a group into PowerShell. The last thing as well is what I recommend is an IDE. So that's your integrated development environment. So this just means where you can do things like it color codes your text for you in your scripts. It also does things like IntelliSense, which like if you've done an if statement, you haven't put a bracket on the end of it or something like that, it will either suggest what's wrong with it. So it's really good. I mean, the best one out there is VS Code. It's free, it's easy, and you can put plugins. You can do it. If not, every Windows 10 machine's got this Windows PowerShell integrated scripting environment in it, which is brilliant. Which is that's where I started off writing my code in it. So it's installed on most Windows 10 servers as well. So yeah, but hopefully that gives you some tips.
Alistair, thank you so much. It does. And one of the things that I've started doing is retyping code that are coming into the PDFs and some of the websites, and just to get the feel, and especially looping. That is the whole key to all programming. But yes, to be able to call in the variables for, hey, creating a whole bunch of accounts. Or maybe I'll tell you where we scripted and did something, and it was really my senior network engineer when I was at Amerigas, Darlene. What she would do is we had to change the email for everybody, and she scripted being to add first dot last name because new management came in and they wanted to. So we had to add an alias for everybody before we made it their primary, and a couple thousand users. So of course, you have to script that when you're doing something like that. So anyway, Alistair, thank you for the voicemail. And he also sent me an email here with a link in the above article, and this is about encryption. And he says, have you ever noticed if you install Windows 10 Pro lately, BitLocker is enabled by default? Unless that's the 22H2, I have not noticed that. And I'm going to ask my son about that because we're doing Windows 10 from scratch. A lot if we're redoing a system. But that was never the norm. So there's a link that's going to be in the show notes. And in the above article, it says only enable first time you sign into a personal Microsoft account. Okay, that's why. We're always signing in under a local account. So if you sign in as an at Outlook.com or at Hotmail.com or your school or work account, then it's doing that. And I guess it's saving the BitLocker key with the account. He continues here, but I only noticed this is the other day when I reinstalled a laptop with Windows 10 Pro with a local account, no online account. There was the padlock on the OS disk, and it had not signed into an online account. Has anyone else seen this? I have not seen that. And if you've seen this, you're listening to this, write me. Send me an email. Let me know. And he said, just wanted to make people aware of this because, hey, if it's doing this, back up your BitLocker recovery key as if you've ever needed to move the disk to another machine. You will not be able to access the content of the disk. Great advice, Alistair. So anybody redoing Windows 10, and you know what? Anytime you come into a new system or you're working on a system, and we're going to do this when we onboard a client, we check, is there a BitLocker? Is it encrypted? And once we put Synchro in there, I have a script that I can run against all of the computers. And if it has a BitLocker key, it actually takes the BitLocker key and adds it to a custom field we have in Synchro. I love that PowerShell script. So just a tremendous example of the power of PowerShell. And here, with BitLocker, make sure you get a copy of that BitLocker key. All right. An email from James, a follow-up from the USB extension cable tip. Regarding your USB extension cable tip, I recently bought a used HP Elite Desk 800 G3 mini business desktop PC off contract and attached my wireless Lenovo keyboard and mouse, which always worked perfectly. However, for some reason, I started to experience weird behavior with the keyboard repeating random keys, making it impossible to type anything. The mouse was also acting erratically. Sometimes they would work fine, but then act crazy again. It was driving me nuts. I searched the web for a solution, but found nothing. And finally, out of frustration, swapped out the keyboard for a wired one. Then I listened to your tip suggesting I move the USB transceiver away from the proximity to the other USB cables with an extension cable. Instead, I just moved the transceiver to a front port of the computer and the problem was solved. No more phantom key presses. I was relieved and elated. The Elite Desk Mini PC has the rear USB ports close to each other, thus causing interference. I didn't think that was possible anyways. Thanks for the timely solution. James, I love hearing stories like that. Thank you for sending that in. I really appreciate that. And for the final email, this is from Kate from Canada, replying about my spam issue. And I'll tell you that even today, there were 3 spam phone calls that I'm ignoring, and it drops a voicemail, and then I block it, but they keep changing the numbers. Kate goes, "Hi, Mike. My Google Pixel 6 Pro running Android 13 does a good job of blocking spam text messages in the Google Messages app. I don't know if this has rolled out to other non-Google Android phones yet. Sometimes we get good stuff first." As she rubs it in. Okay. At some point, I must have enabled this because it's working at least 85% of the time. To enable this on an Android 13 on a Pixel, 1, open the Messages app. Tap the profile picture. Top right. Tap Message Settings. Scroll down to Spam Protection. Tap on the Spam Protection. Slide the slider to the right to enable spam protection. Works good here in Canada. It would probably work even better in the USA. It doesn't catch everything, but I doubt there's anything that does. I just get a notification that Google helped me out by catching some spam. And if I want to look at the text, I can. 1, open the Messages app, then tap on the hamburger menu, the top left, and tap on spam and blocked. Now, Taz in the chat just said he uses the Malwarebytes app on his iPhone. As much of a Malwarebytes user, you would think I would use that. I have to try that. If I want to see, she continues, if I want to see what numbers I've blocked, or if I want to block all unidentified callers, or if I want to add a number manually from the screen, I tap on the 3 dots, the upper right, and then on blocked numbers. It should be pretty obvious from there how to do what you want. Also, you can unblock a number in case you accidentally block someone. It can happen. Absolutely. And this is good. Sorry about your Phillies. As a Cardinals fan, I think I can empathize. For now, I guess it's fly, Eagles, fly for you, and go Niners for me. Take good care, Kate. Kate, thank you. And since Kate is such a big St. Louis Cardinals fan during that first wild card series. We were texting back and forth because my Phillies were playing her Cardinals, and that was a lot of fun. You wouldn't believe the texting that I have done with family, friends, some listeners, during that whole stretch of the Phillies. It was a lot of fun, and it was like keeping me company down here. It was great. And even in the middle of that, my sister came and visited, and it was great. And I know she was forced to watch 3 of the Phillies games, but watch them clinch the NLCS, to go to the World Series, and that was a lot of fun. So that is it for tonight's show. I want to thank everybody for the email messages and the voicemail message. Thanks for staying subscribed, and I really, really appreciate it. I sincerely wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving, or whatever holiday, whatever you're doing for the next couple weeks before we meet again. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.